I'm excited because, you know, I'm always wanting to teach and train people from my background, from all of those years of woodworking, furniture making, and making my living from woodworking. So I thought the other day it would be really neat to show people the 3 ways that I use to cut a housing dado. And a housing dado would be where a shelf might go in here. It might have a joint on the back of a drawer or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 3 different ways that I use in the day-to-day of life. I've already laid out, I've got pencil lines on, I've got my depth marked. So that means I've used a square, a pencil, I've used a marking gauge to get the depth and things like that. So I'm going to walk you through. This is the first one, and this is the one that I probably used a lot of. So the first knife wall goes in, and the knife wall goes in on every one of these methods. So I've got my knife, I cut that wall dead square, and then I go with a chisel like this. Where is my chisel hammer? Should be ready, shouldn't I? So this one comes in here, and that chops in towards the knife wall without hitting it. And then these just flick out of the way. Now I'm going to show you this method. I'm going to show you the chopping method. So now I go in here on that knife wall, chisel tight up against it, and I start to chop, but I don't chop heavily. I could chop a lot more heavily, but that will just move my knife wall, and that's a mistake. I don't want to do that. So now this is going in. They've already gone in a good 1/16. I go back into my vise, in and out of my vise for security and safety. And then I start split cutting again, like this. And this is just one of the methods. So I would use this in the day-to-day of life, and I've used it all my life. So now I go back into my knife wall that's getting deeper. Now I have a bigger wall of resistance, so I can hit a little bit harder, like this, and that will take me very close to depth. I am down to my line on both sides. I'm going to leave the rest of that. I bring my piece of wood in, and I offer this to that knife wall, tap it home right up against the knife wall, and then I take my knife, place it on that edge, and I can take that wall all the way across. I'm going back in with my knife, like that, pulling my knife. That's gone in about a 32nd of an inch, so that gives me my second knife wall, and that's enough. So see what my chisel does? I lift up with my chisel all the way over. That separates the fibers all the way over. So you notice it only really splits down to the depth of that cut. So here we go again. Now this time I'm going to put my chisel on the knife wall, but I'm going to lean it ever so slightly out of perpendicularity. So there, I chop just like this. And I'm not going very deep, and I'm not going very hard. I don't really want to move that knife wall. Notice I go in and out of my vise all the time just for safety. If I don't have a vise, I clamp it to the bench top. Watch here now, lift up and over the top. That will separate the fibers down to the depth you want to go. The grain is a little bit against me there. What I'm going to do now is I want to see just how well I did. So I'm going to put this into the groove, and it's just holding ever so well. So now I'm going to chop a little bit more. I don't want anything to be over tight. And the idea of this is not to show you how good I am at making a dado, is to show you the different methods that I use. I'm down to my line close to, so now I go with a narrow chisel. Now you can use the chisel hammer or just the heel of your hand, but don't use the heel of your hand if you're not used to it just yet. Once you've gone onto that surface there, now I'm working with maple, which is a very easy wood. It's hard maple, but it doesn't mean it's hard to work. So I work from this side towards the middle, like this. Turn it round and work from this side. I'm going right into the marking gauge line, so I'm very close to the depth, and I just start these jabbing maneuvers, double-handed, and that's really the first method for making that housing dado. Now, am I finished? Not quite. I'm going to bring this into play. This is a router. This is my own version of a router. And what this does is it finalizes my depth like this. It gets the depth even all the way along the bottom. You don't have to have one of these. If you want one, you can buy the kit from me. I have a kit that I make that is perfect for this. And you can make your own just like I did here. So there you go. And now I've got my housing dado. Which one? This one goes in here. And what I really want is just to be self-supporting. That's what we want. What about the other methods? Let's take a quick look at the other methods, because like I said before, we always have the knife wall going on here. We always start with the square, go onto that first line, just like this. What I'm going to do is, while I've got this in place, I'm going to put this in, because we're going to saw this knife wall this time. So I'm making my knife nick on this side, and then I'm going to put my tip of my knife right in, and I'm going with the second wall. So that's 2 walls I've got. So I'm going to define this a little bit deeper, and I'm going to go in here now with the 1-inch chisel, lift over, like this. Now I'm going to go the awkward way. I don't normally do this. I'd take my wood and move my wood, but just so you can see. So this is method number 2. Okay, now we go with a saw, just any rigid back, stiff back saw, and just nuzzle that right up against the knife wall. And go down to your gauge line. Same on the other one. Down to the 3/16 in this case. Now the depth is arbitrary. You can go any depth you want. You can take out the bulk of your waste now, watch. So we got the walls cut with the saw this time. This is real woodworking. This is what you were looking for when you started woodworking. You saw a chisel, you saw a plane, you saw a hammer. So I'm going with the narrower chisel into my gauge line. So this is a fast method, really. I'm going to turn it round and come from the other side, because the unsupported fibres, if I go all the way through, will break out, and I want to come in here so I get nice crisp lines like this. Now you can just use your chisel if you want to. You don't have to use the router plane. I just like to, because it defines everything perfectly. So here we go again with the router, working towards the other side. Notice I don't go all the way through, because this corner will break off if I do. Turn it round, work from this face now towards the middle, just like this. And there you have your second dado. And this drops into there. There you have your second dado. Very nice. What about the last one? Okay, I'm going to deal with this last one because this one is really about the most minimal of all the housing dados, because we're going to use a knife and a square for this just to start out. So I go onto that first knife wall, that first pencil line, make my mark, take my piece of wood, do exactly as I did before. I make a knife wall across. So now I've got two knife walls. This one needs just to be deepened a little bit more, like this. Tight into the corner, wide chisel, and start popping it. Lift right up, go all the way over, like this. And then here, this one, I'm just doing this way because sometimes you might not have a choice. You might not be able to get a hammer in, you might not be able to get a saw in. So now I'm going in again with the knife. So that's taking me down another 1/16. That point of the chisel is going into the wood fibre about a 1/16. Lift, lift. So this is splitting down to the bottom of that knife wall on both sides. Now you can do this. Anybody can do this. This is an amazing way to do real woodworking. Now I can take the bulk of that waste off in the middle, but I can't go down to my full depth line just yet, but I'm not far off because I need the knife wall to go in a little bit deeper. Just take out some of that bulk in the middle, just like this. Come from the other side, always go from both sides. And this is a safety issue with the vise. You've got safety because it's nice and secure in the vise. Now we don't need the square anymore. We can just go down like this with the knife on both sides. And of course you can always pair cut more if you feel like you need to in a little while. So I'm going half the depth, not quite down to my final depth. Now I've got this level here, I can put my chisel on the surface and jab cut halfway across, like this, or 2/3 of the way across. So this is another way that I use, and you may find this is the only way you can actually get into yours. So I'm right in my knife wall now, in my gauge line, should I say. So I'm going to go one more pass on each side with my knife, like this. And there we have another method. So I go with this. Yes, can I do that? Yeah, I can. This is a wonderful tool. It guarantees the depth. It means that the whole of the bottom of this recess is going to be dead level. And there we have the third dado, housing dado cut. So this is what we do. We actually just made the back of a drawer, we made the bookshelf. So this is the last one. This one's not quite as tall. Maybe I got the wrong side. There we go. So this is the way I cut my housing dados. It works great.